My own son told me to stop calling. Go live your own life, he said. So the next morning, I called my attorney. 3 days later, my children showed up at my door. Security guards were already waiting for them. What I did next, nobody saw coming. My name is Walter Higgins. I'm 68 years old. 3 days ago, my son Craig looked me in the eye and said, "Quit blowing up our phones. Go live your own life." Then he hung up. I sat in my kitchen in Dayton, Ohio, holding a phone that suddenly felt heavier than it should. That kitchen table has been in my family for 30 years. I built it myself the summer my wife Donna was pregnant with Craig. Now I was sitting alone at it, listening to a dial tone. I have 2 children. Craig, 39, an insurance adjuster with a house he can barely afford, and my daughter Renee, 35, a nurse in Columbus, who used to call me every Sunday. Used to. The calls stopped 4 months ago. Not all at once. They faded, the way a porch light dims before it finally goes dark. First it was missed calls that went unreturned. Then texts read but not answered. Then, 3 days ago, Craig finally picked up, only to tell me to stop trying. I hadn't done anything wrong. I just missed my grandchildren. I missed hearing Renee's laugh. I missed being someone's father, not just a name on a life insurance policy. Donna passed 6 years ago. Cancer. Fast, cruel, and final. After she died, I threw myself into the hardware store I've owned for 32 years, Higgins Hardware, on 5th Street. It's not a big business, but it's mine. I built it from nothing. And over the years, I built something else too. Something my children didn't know about. Real estate. For rental properties, bought quietly, one at a time, starting back in the 90s when land was cheap, and nobody wanted it. Today, those properties are worth more than the store ever was. Nearly $2 million, all told. I never talked about it. Donna and I agreed a long time ago that we'd let our kids grow up without the shadow of inheritance hanging over their choices. But lately, something had changed. Craig started asking questions. Not about my health. Not about how I was doing since Donna passed. About my will. About what happens to everything when I'm gone. Renee started dropping hints too, mentioning her mortgage, her student loans. Always circling back to money like a moth to a porch light. I told myself I was imagining it. Grief makes you paranoid. But that phone call 3 days ago wasn't paranoia. That was real. My own son telling me to stop calling. So the next morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I picked up the phone, and I called my attorney, Marlene Ashby. I told her I was ready to make some changes. I had no idea, sitting there at my kitchen table, that within 1 week, my children would be standing on my front porch, banging on my door, demanding answers. And I had no idea that when they did, there would already be 2 security guards waiting behind me. I met Marlene Ashby at her office downtown the next morning. She'd been my attorney for 15 years, ever since Donna and I first bought the rental on Chestnut Street. She's sharp, direct, and doesn't waste words. "Walter," she said, "you've called me 3 times this year about the same thing. What's different today?" I told her about Craig hanging up on me. I told her about the questions, the silence, the way my own children had started treating me like a bank account instead of a father. Marlene listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "There's something you should know," she said. "Something I've been holding on to because you never asked the right question." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" 2 months ago, someone contacted my office pretending to be you. They tried to get information about your will and your property deeds. My assistant caught it before anything happened. We traced the email address. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. The email address had Craig's name in it. I stared at that paper for a long time. My own son, trying to dig into my finances behind my back, while pretending to be me. Not asking me directly. Not sitting down like a man and saying, "Dad, I'm worried about money." Sneaking, lying, manipulating. I thought about all the times over the past year I'd made excuses for him. The missed birthdays. The short phone calls. I told myself he was busy, stressed, dealing with his own life. I never let myself consider that he simply didn't need me anymore, except for what I could leave behind. "There's more," Marlene said gently. "Renee called my office too. Last month. She didn't try anything sneaky. She asked directly if there was a way to have you declared, in her words, not fully capable of managing finances." That hit harder than anything Craig had done. Renee, my sweet girl, the one who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during Sunday drives, had gone looking for a way to take control of my life. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, feeling something inside me go quiet and still, like a house after a storm passes. "What do you want to do?" Marlene asked. I thought about Donna, about the promise we made never to let money poison our children. I thought about the store, the properties, 30 years of quiet, careful work. And I thought about two grown adults who had decided, without ever asking me, that my life was simply an obstacle between them and what they wanted. I want to change everything, I said. The will, the properties, all of it. And I want it done by Friday. Marlene nodded slowly, already writing. And when they find out, I looked out her office window at the gray Ohio sky. They won't find out from me, I said. They'll find out when they show up at my door demanding answers. And when they do, I want to be ready. I had no idea then just how soon that day would come, or how much worse the truth would turn out to be. Friday came fast. Marlene finished the paperwork Thursday night, and by Friday morning, everything was signed, sealed, and filed. The hardware store, the for rental properties, my savings, all of it now belonged to a trust with very specific rules I had written myself. Sitting at that same kitchen table, where this whole thing started, I remember standing in my kitchen that morning, coffee going cold in my hands, staring at the framed photo of Donna on the windowsill. I hope I'm doing this right, I whispered to her. She always knew how to handle the kids better than I did, but she wasn't here anymore. It was just me now. That same afternoon, I heard tires on my gravel driveway. Craig's truck. Right behind it, Renee's car. They must have driven separately from different cities, and met up somewhere along the way, united by whatever they thought they were about to confront me with. I was ready. Two security guards Marlene had arranged stood quietly near the porch steps, not to threaten my children, but to make sure nothing got out of hand. I'd learned enough about anger, mine and theirs, to know it needed boundaries. Craig got out first, slamming his door. Dad, what is going on? Marlene's office called me. They said the will's been changed. The properties are gone from your name. Renee was right behind him, arms crossed, eyes red like she'd been crying the whole drive. Dad, please, just talk to us. Who are these people? She nodded toward the guards, her voice trembling somewhere between fear and anger. I stood on my porch, looking at the two people I'd raised, fed, taught to ride bikes, and carried on my shoulders at the county fair every summer of their childhoods. For a moment, I saw them small again, Craig missing his front teeth, Renee in pigtails, both of them yelling, "Daddy, watch this," from the top of the slide. Then the moment passed, and I saw them as they were now. Grown, guarded, strangers wearing familiar faces. I know about the fake email, Craig, I said quietly, pretending to be me, trying to pull my deeds from Marlene's office. His face went pale. Dad, that's not, I can explain. Don't, I said, holding up my hand. Not yet. I turned to my daughter. And Renee, I know you called Marlene asking to have me declared incapable of managing my own finances. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Tears spilled down her cheeks instead. I'm not senile, I said, my voice steady even though my chest felt tight. I'm not confused. I balance my own books. I run my own store. I'm a father who got tired of being treated like an inheritance instead of a person. Craig's voice cracked. Dad, we were scared. You're getting older, and we didn't know how to talk about it, so we thought if we just handled it quietly, it would be easier for everyone. Easier for who? I asked. Because it wasn't easier for me. Do you know what it's like to sit alone in this house, night after night, wondering why your own children stopped calling, wondering if they were waiting for something? Neither of them answered. The silence stretched out over the yard, broken only by the wind moving through the old oak tree Donna and I planted the year Renee was born. Then I told them the truth. Everything wasn't gone. It had moved into a trust, one that would eventually pass to both of them equally, along with their children. But not yet. Not until they proved, through real relationship, real honesty, and real presence, that they wanted their father, not just his money. Every visit, every honest conversation, every Sunday call you actually make, I said. That's what rebuilds this. Not lawyers, not lies, not sneaking around behind an old man's back. Renee broke down first, walking up the steps and wrapping her arms around me, sobbing apologies I could feel more than hear. I'm so sorry, Dad. I don't know what happened to us. We just got scared and stupid and I'm sorry. Craig stood frozen for a moment, jaw tight, fighting something inside himself. Then he followed, his hand landing on my shoulder, his head bowed low. I should have just talked to you, he said quietly. I should have just picked up the phone and asked. We stood there together on that porch, three broken pieces trying to find their way back into one shape, while the security guards quietly stepped back toward their car, their job already done. It's been 8 months now. Craig calls every Sunday, same time, without fail. Renee visits with the grandkids twice a month, and last week, my youngest grandson asked if he could help me sweep the floors at Higgins Hardware. I let him. He was terrible at it, but I didn't care. It isn't perfect. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight, and some nights I still catch myself waiting for the phone to ring, Old habits dying hard. But it's real now, built on honesty instead of hidden motives, built on choice instead of obligation. I learned something that year I'll never forget. Love isn't proven by what you're willing to inherit. It's proven by what you're willing to show up for, even when there's nothing to gain.